Let me tell you about my first experience with pine and blue stain. I had a bunch of pine trees milled into about 4,000 board feet of lumber, which was subsequently going to be milled into tongue and groove flooring for my house. So once the 4,000 board feet was cut, I took it to a kiln, and I'm talking to the guy operating the kiln about it, and he's looking at my piles, which are all just stacked, stacked, stacked. They're not stickered. And he says, well, we got to get those piles apart right away, or you're going to start to get blue stain in your pine. What's blue stain? Well, blue stain is the stain that you develop in the pine when the boards lay face to face for a long time while they're still wet, and it puts a color in the material. And the more he described it, the more I knew I wanted it. I didn't want to eliminate the blue stain, I wanted to encourage the blue stain. So we actually intentionally left those piles unstickered for some period of time, a couple of weeks, before they went into the kiln, and the resulting blue stain was really beautiful in the floor. This table I'm working on has got the same thing. So let's show it first. That bluish gray stuff down here is blue stain. And here's the deal. It's a fungus that starts to grow in the wood when it's damp, anything that's going to cause fungus. The wood is wet, it's not in the sunlight, it's not getting airflow, so this fungus starts to grow, and it causes this discoloration. Now, a lot of woodworkers might look at that and say, well, there's a defect I'd like to get rid of. I, on the other hand, look at that and say, oh my gosh, where can I get more? I think that that is so cool. It does not affect the structural integrity of the wood. So this pine is just as strong as pine that doesn't have blue stain in it. Once the material has dried, it's stabilized. So in other words, the blue stain we see today, that's all we're ever going to get. It's not going to continue to grow because this is now bone dry. This pine is bone dry. The other thing is how much blue stain is there. In other words, what's the depth of it? Well, you're not going to sand this out immediately, but it may or may not go all the way through the board. So when you're working with material and you want to keep the blue stain, you got to be a little bit careful about how much sanding you do. But I can tell you in this board, it's not laying just on the top. In fact, if we look at the end of the board, you can see stripes here in the end grain, and those stripes give you an idea of the penetration of the blue stain through the material. So that's the deal with pine and blue stain. I am a big fan of actually encouraging it. I think it looks really cool in the wood. A little bit of finish on this project, and actually the blue stain really pops even more it's more visible than it even is now. So I think it's a great feature, not a defect, and I love seeing it in these pine slabs.